So, let me understand this correctly. General Vrozak's voice carried a dangerous stillness. You abducted human children? All four of the general's eyes blinked in staggered rhythm, first the upper pair, then the lower, each blink sharper and more disbelieving than the last. Lieutenant Krill shifted uneasily inside his angular exoskeleton, his antenna twitching in guilt. Technically speaking, sir, Krill began, they were adolescents. The tallest was nearly at full physical growth. Oh, splendid. That makes it infinitely better, does it? The general's sarcasm cracked through the air, made harsher by the distortion in his voice modulator. Even the ship's translation array couldn't sand down the edges. I'm sure the humans will be absolutely thrilled to learn we only took their almost adults. Exceptional work, Lieutenant. Silence blanketed the Voidwing's command deck. The dozen Zentari officers manning their stations suddenly found their displays fascinating, as though the blinking lights were matters of life and death. No one dared glance at the general, whose chromatophores pulsed through ominous shades of violet and crimson. Krill's antennae sagged lower. Permission to explain, sir? Vrozak lowered himself into the command chair, folding all four hands together in the unmistakable gesture his crew had dubbed the "this better be good or someone's getting spaced" pose. By all means, enlighten me. I'm positively dying to know how you've managed to spark a potential diplomatic disaster with the one species the High Command specifically ordered us to observe from afar. Krill brought up a glowing interface. It began as a routine surveillance operation. We located a remote educational facility. A what? A school, sir. Oh, by the stars, Vrozak muttered. We selected it because of its isolation, low security, minimal population. The plan was to retrieve a few specimens, conduct non-invasive cognitive and physiological assessments, and return them before anyone noticed. Their memories would be adjusted to prevent awareness. Vrozak's eye stalks extended fully, disbelief sharpening his gaze. And at which point did you reinterpret observe from a safe distance as kidnap their young from learning centers? Sir, High Command requires thorough intelligence on human capabilities. After 3 cycles of long-range study, we still cannot fathom how a species with such crude technology annihilated the Kronos Armada. The mention of Kronos made the general's mandibles tighten. That humiliation was known across the galaxy. The Kronos, armed with quantum phase weaponry and time-distorting battle drives, had tried to claim Sol as tributary territory. They'd returned crippled, half their fleet destroyed, forced into a treaty that essentially read, "Stay in your corner of the nebula and we'll stay in ours." So your grand solution was to snatch a few half-grown humans and what? Dissect them? Krill's exoskeleton plates clattered in protest. Nothing so crude, sir. We administered standardized, non-invasive testing, scans, puzzles, logic sequences. And the results, he hesitated. The results were unsettling. Vrozak leaned forward. Unsettling in what way? Better to show you, Krill said. With a flick of his clawed fingers, a hologram shimmered to life. The projection displayed a human male, roughly 16 Earth years. Shaggy brown hair, standard-issue blue leg coverings, dark upper garment with incomprehensible symbols, which the ship's AI rendered into science. It's like magic, but real. The boy sat before a 3-dimensional puzzle cube used by the Zentari to gauge spatial reasoning. Most species took hours to solve it, if they solved it at all. Observe, Krill instructed. The human studied the puzzle for exactly 2.7 minutes, then dismantled and reconstructed it in perfect configuration in under 60 seconds. Vrozak's mandibles twitched. Impressive for a juvenile. Now watch this. The hologram shifted. Same human, new challenge. A logic sequence involving quantum state variables so complex that most Centauri scholars required specialized training to attempt it. The boy frowned at the display. Is anyone watching this? He said aloud. This is kinda boring. Also, these symbols don't even go together. You've mixed the uncertainty principle with a Schrödinger equation, but your variables are all wrong. Vrozak's head tilted sharply. How does a juvenile human even recognize quantum notation? That was our question, Krill replied. So we sent in a drone with harder problems. A spherical drone entered the boy's chamber. Oh, awesome, a robot. Wait, am I on a spaceship? That is so cool. Even through the translation matrix, his enthusiasm was unfiltered. He took the datapad, muttering to himself as he worked. Okay, non-Euclidean geometry, four-dimensional transform. I think Nishimura's paper covered this last year. 10 minutes later, he returned the pad. Pretty sure I nailed most of them. The last one? You'll need a supercomputer. Or at least a killer graphics card. Krill froze the frame. These were university-level human problems. He solved 8 of 10 correctly. Vrozak leaned back. So they're smart. We knew that already. Sir, he was the least concerning specimen. The hologram changed again, showing a younger male, perhaps 14, with unruly red curls. His standardized attire had an additional shimmering overlay that caught the light when he moved. He solved the spatial puzzle faster than the first. But then, on the recording, the boy disassembled the observation drone. He disabled its defense subroutines, Vrozak said, astonished. Yes, and repurposed its component. He built a functioning energy pulse emitter and took down the force field. The footage showed the boy stepping triumphantly through the now inert barrier, grinning and pumping his fist. Containment systems recovered him, Krill added quickly. But no one should be able to create working tech from a Class 3 drone in minutes. Vrozak was fully attentive now. And the third specimen? Krill's body armor rattled, a Zentari tell of deep unease. She's the reason for this meeting. The projection shifted to a 15-year-old human female. Dark skin, intricately braided hair, similar clothing but with more color and ornamentation, likely cultural markers. Vrozak raised a brow ridge. What did she do? Build a fusion core from scrap. The general's attempt at humor faded when Krill's antennae drooped even lower. Sir, she hacked our... She did what? Vrozak's voice was sharp enough to cut metal. She improvised a crude interface from components inside her cell and tapped into a tertiary comms node, Krill said, his tone torn between admiration and dread. Before we could sever the link, she broadcast a distress signal. With our exact coordinates. The command deck froze. Even the constant hum of the environmental systems seemed to hesitate. Lieutenant, Vrozak said with unnerving calm, please tell me that message was sent to other humans on their homeworld. Krill's lack of reply was answer enough. You sent our coordinates to their military, didn't you? Their global defense network, sir. And there's more. Krill summoned a tactical holomap. We've tracked 3 vessels inbound on an intercept vector. They launched from Earth 8 hours ago, moving on what appears to be a modified Alcubierre drive, a configuration we've never encountered. Vrozak shot upright, all 4 eyes narrowing. 8 hours ago? You've known they were pursuing us for 8 hours and only now thought to tell me. We assumed we could outrun them, sir, Krill stammered. By all known metrics, human tech shouldn't allow for interstellar pursuit. But they're gaining. The display showed 3 blips tearing through the void toward the single glowing icon marking the void wing. How long until they reach us? 4 hours at current velocity. Vrozak's chromatophores dulled to an ashen gray. Lieutenant, prepare those human juveniles for immediate return. Full medical scans ensure they're unharmed. Ready memory modification protocols. Krill hesitated. Sir, the neural adjustments aren't working. Their minds are adapting to the interface, resisting it. Of course they are, Vrozak muttered darkly. Why would any part of this disaster follow standard procedure? He turned toward the comm station. Open a channel to the human ships. We'll make it clear this is an unfortunate misunderstanding. Channel open, the officer confirmed. The main view screen lit up with a human face, dressed in a uniform marked with insignia that defied the AI's attempts at full classification. This is Commander David Mitchell, Earth Defense Fleet. You have abducted Earth citizens. Return them now, and prepare to be boarded. Vrozak stepped forward, adopting his most formal stance. Commander Mitchell, I am General Vrozak of the Zentari Expeditionary Force. I assure you, this is a regrettable mistake. The humans aboard were to be studied briefly and returned unharmed. We are ready to release them immediately. Mitchell's expression didn't shift an inch. You have 3 hours to return them. After that, we take them by force. Commander, surely we can? Those are children you took, General. Mitchell's voice dropped to a quiet, deadly register. If they are harmed in any way, what follows won't be a military operation. It'll be a reckoning. The channel cut without ceremony. Well, Vrozak said dryly to the silent crew. That went splendidly. He jabbed a finger at Krill. Get them ready for transfer, now. As Krill hurried away, Vrozak sank back into his chair, mind racing. Tactical, analyze the human ship. I want a full breakdown. Sir, the tactical officer's voice wavered. Their weapons systems defy classification. Some form of directed energy. Our sensors can't fully resolve it. Their hulls are absorbing our scans. Marvelous, Vrozak grumbled. Zend, what do we really know about their military, outside the sanitized intelligence files? The science officer stepped forward, tension in every line of her posture. Almost nothing solid, sir. After the Kronos defeat, all hard data was locked down. We know they repelled an invasion with technology far inferior to their attackers, but the how remains classified even at high command. Useful as ever, Vrozak replied flatly. Comms keep hailing them. Perhaps. Sir, the sensor officer interrupted sharply. The human ships just accelerated. New intercept in 58 minutes. Vrozak blinked each eye in turn. That's impossible. They'd need to sustain 22 GS, sir. Their hulls should be coming apart. No life form could. A cold weight settled in Vrozak's thorax. Unless they've perfected inertial dampening, or those aren't manned ships. Sir. Comms again, panicked this time. We're receiving an internal transmission from the detention level. Vrozak closed all 4 eyes, bracing. Put it through. The screen changed to show the eldest human youth, calm as if chatting over a casual comlink. Hey, ship captain guy or admiral, whatever. We need to talk. Vrozak stared. How are you on my comms? The boy grinned. Your buddy in the bug armor left his tablet behind when he bolted. Weird interface, but pretty easy once you figure it out. Anyway, those ships chasing you? You really don't want them to catch up. We're aware, Vrozak said stiffly. We are preparing to return you. Yeah, might want to hurry that up, the boy cut in. Those ships are running Nemesis protocols. The term meant nothing to Vrozak, but something in the boy's tone chilled his exoskeleton. What are Nemesis protocols? They're what we built after the Kronos tried to take us. Those ships aren't just here to rescue us, General. They're here to make sure nobody ever thinks kidnapping humans is a good idea. They're delete buttons. Big, fast, relativistic delete buttons. Before Vrozak could reply, the tactical officer's alarm rang out. Sir, the human vessels have launched multiple objects, all on intercept. Evasive maneuvers. They're adjusting to match. 40 seconds to impact. The human on the screen frowned. Wait, they're firing already? That's not right. They wouldn't risk hitting us. Kate, what exactly did you say in that message? A girl's voice replied faintly. I may have implied we were being experimented on. You what? The boy and Vrozak shouted in unison. Impact in 20 seconds. Vrozak made his decision. Drop all shields, power down weapons, broadcast surrender on every channel. Shields dropping, sir. 15 seconds to impact. On the view screen, the eldest human was working rapidly over the alien control tablet, fingers flying. Sending them our biosigns now, so they know we're fine. Just don't move your ship. 10 seconds. All channels broadcasting surrender, General, the comms officer confirmed. 5 seconds. The bridge went still, every officer holding their breath as if it might help absorb the coming strike. Objects have stopped, the tactical officer said at last, disbelief clear in his voice. Holding position 3 kilometers off our bow. The human exhaled visibly. Got through to them. Now you need to let me speak to Commander Mitchell. Right now. Vrozak had stared down Nargalian execution squads and commanded fleets at Proxima Centauri, but never in his long career had he imagined taking orders from an Earth adolescent. And yet, patch him through, side by side with the human commander, Vrozak ordered. The display split, revealing both the boy and Commander Mitchell. Finn. Mitchell's stern demeanor cracked for just a moment. Are you and the others unharmed? We're fine, Finn assured him. No dissections, no weird experiments, just puzzles and tests. But you've gotta cancel the Nemesis protocols. These guys are, well, scientists. Clumsy scientists, but still. Vrozak couldn't decide whether to be relieved or insulted. Mitchell's expression didn't soften. Protocols stay active until you're aboard our ships. Sir, Finn pressed, they didn't realize they were doing anything wrong. Their intel on us is garbage. They thought they were scooping up a few random teenagers for study, not abducting the children of Earth's leading scientists from a gifted program field trip. Vrozak felt his thoracic cavity tighten. Leading scientist? Gifted program? Perfect. Mitchell's posture eased a fraction. Very well. General Vrozak, we'll halt offensive action, for now, provided you send all 3 back via shuttle. No weapons, no escort. Agreed, Vrozak said immediately. They'll be ready at once. One more thing, Mitchell added. Your ship remains under guard until an Earth diplomatic team arrives to discuss reparations. Reparations? Vrozak blinked. We've agreed to return them unharmed. You entered our system uninvited, kidnapped our citizens, and subjected them to unauthorized tests, Mitchell said coldly. There will be consequences. The channel closed, leaving only Finn on the display. Sorry, the boy said with a wry half-smile. I'll tell them you didn't hurt us. And those puzzles? Pretty fun, actually. Your recommendation is appreciated, Vrozak replied weakly. Oh, and maybe check Observation Room 3, Finn added. Tyler built something from your scanning gear. It's making a strange humming. Vrozak shut all 4 eyes in weary resignation. Of course he did. 3 hours later, the general stood in the shuttle bay beside the 3 human youths, waiting for launch clearance. Against all protocol, and his better instincts, he decided to accompany them personally. It was partly for goodwill, and partly because he wanted them off his ship before they dismantled anything else. So, Vrozak began, addressing Finn, your species lacks faster-than-light travel, yet you recognized high-order quantum equations? Finn shrugged. We're working on FTL. My mom's lab has a prototype. Engineering's the tricky part. The math's solid. Your mother is a scientist? Quantum physicist, Finn said casually. She focuses on zero-point energy. Dad's an engineer, exotic matter containment fields. Vrozak glanced toward Tyler, the younger boy, who was peering far too closely at the shuttle's propulsion array. And your parents? Tyler grinned. Mom designs AI neural interfaces for the Defense Department. Dad's in cybersecurity. They met during the Kronos invasion, hacking alien tech together. Pretty romantic, right? Quite, Vrozak murmured. His gaze moved to Kate, the quietest of the 3, and the one responsible for alerting the Human Defense Network. I suppose your parents are also accomplished? Dad's a diplomat, Kate replied evenly. First contact specialist. Mom's an anthropologist who studies non-human intelligence models. She fixed him with a cool stare. They're going to have questions about your abduction procedures. Vrozak's chromatophores shifted to a deeply embarrassed mauve. This incident is not representative of standard Centauri conduct. Lieutenant Krill acted outside proper authorization. Yeah, Finn cut in. About him, you might want to check his personal logs. He kept muttering about proving his theories on human potential. Seemed obsessed. Vrozak filed that away. Krill was already headed for a tribunal, but ideological motives would complicate things further. The bay's comm system chimed. General, human vessels grant launch clearance for the shuttle. Acknowledged. Vrozak faced the three. The shuttle will take you directly to your people. He hesitated, then inclined his head. Apologize for the distress caused. Finn extended a hand. Vrozak had read of the gesture, but never experienced it. After a brief pause, he clasped it with one smaller appendage. No hard feelings, Finn said. Just next time? Send a diplomat instead of snatching kids. Works better. There will not be a next time, Vrozak promised fervently. At least, not one involving abductions. Tyler glanced up from the propulsion housing. One quick question before we go. Those four-dimensional logic puzzles you gave us, what do your kids usually score? Their university placement level, Vrozak replied. Average completion is 3 of 10 problems. The humans exchanged glances. And I got 8, right? Finn asked. Yes. So, what does that make me in Centauri terms? Based solely on those results, eligible for advanced theoretical physics training, Vrozak admitted. Sweet. Finn grinned. That's going on my college apps. Pre-launch sequence initiating, the shuttle AI announced. That's your cue, Vrozak said, stepping back. May this unfortunate first contact be repaired, and perhaps lead to proper diplomacy in the future. Kate's mouth curved into her first smile since being taken. Well, you're about to meet my father, so you'll find out for yourself soon enough. Vrozak's chromatophores faded to a pale, uneasy hue. Your father is the diplomatic envoy here to negotiate reparations? Yep, she said brightly. Hostile first contact scenarios are his specialty. Her expression took on a mischievous tilt. Don't worry, he's usually pretty reasonable. Unless someone threatens his kids. Then, not so much. Shuttle launch in 30 seconds, the Bay computer announced, advising all non-essential personnel to clear the area. Vrozak stepped back, dipping into what he hoped resembled a polite human bow. Safe journey. The bay doors sealed, and the general leaned against the corridor wall, suddenly aware of how heavy his limbs felt. In less than a single ship cycle, what had begun as a standard reconnaissance mission had become a diplomatic powder keg. His career was likely in shambles, and soon he would face a human negotiator whose child he had, entirely unintentionally, abducted. His communicator chimed. Sir, incoming transmission from High Command. They're not pleased. Of course they aren't, Vrozak muttered. Route it to my private quarters. As he moved through the corridors, he mentally rehearsed the report. How did one explain that a supposedly young, spacebound species had detected a covert operation almost immediately, then launched ships with propulsion and weapon systems beyond Centauri comprehension? How did one explain juveniles who could match, even surpass, trained Centauri specialists in intellectual assessments? And worst of all, how to frame the fact that this primitive species had forced a Centauri warship to surrender without firing a single shot? The truth was beginning to settle in his mind, heavy as neutron ore. Humanity was more dangerous than anyone in the Galactic Alliance had dared suspect. Not because of brute aggression, though that clearly existed when provoked, but because of something harder to counter, adaptability. Their youth solved graduate-level problems for fun. They improvised tools from whatever was at hand, turned surveillance gear into communications arrays, and reconfigured drones into weapons. and when threatened, they didn't flail. They built a plan and executed it with unnerving precision. The Kronos defeat, Vrozak realized, had likely not been some fluke of chance or lucky tactic. No, the humans had done what they apparently always did: adapt, improvise, and overcome. 2 days later, Vrozak stood in the Voidwing's main conference chamber, facing Earth's diplomatic delegation. As Kate had warned, their lead was indeed her father, Ambassador Leonard Wells. The man was distinguished, graying at the temples, with eyes that assessed everything in the room like a strategist laying out a battlefield. "General Vrozak," Wells began evenly, "I appreciate your cooperation. So far, it has kept this from becoming more adversarial than it might have been. The Zentari Expeditionary Force deeply regrets this incident," Vrozak replied, adopting his most formal tone. "Lieutenant Krill has been removed from duty pending investigation. We are prepared to discuss reparations." Wells inclined his head. "Yes. About those reparations, we've had interesting discussions about what would be most fitting." Something in his tone prickled at Vrozak's nerve. "We can offer technological assets or material compensation, as your government deems appropriate." "Actually," Wells said, sliding a datapad across the polished table, "we have another proposal." Vrozak scanned the text, his confusion mounting. "This is an educational exchange program?" "Precisely," Wells confirmed. "Earth proposes a formal scientific partnership between our worlds." He leaned forward slightly. "Your testing confirms something we've long suspected, that despite our technological gaps in some areas, human cognitive performance is atypical by galactic standards." "Atypical," Vrozak muttered, "is one word for it." Wells' thin smile didn't reach his eyes. "In exchange for certain advances in propulsion and materials science from your people, we can offer breakthroughs in computational theory, artificial intelligence safeguards, and a number of theoretical physics branches that your scientists may find enlightening." "You would trade knowledge instead of pressing for punitive measures?" "Oh, punitive measures remain," Wells said mildly. "Krill will be subject to the consequences he deserves, and the Zentari state will formally acknowledge its violation of our territory. But Earth believes in turning problems into opportunities. Your officers' poor judgment has shown us that our species can learn much from one another." Wells gestured toward a woman seated nearby, silent until now. "Dr. Anna Fitzgerald, head of our Xenoscience Division." Dr. Fitzgerald stepped forward, her gaze alight with curiosity. "General, your intelligence assessments have given us fascinating glimpses into how the Zentari quantify cognition. We'd like to build on that, with consent, of course, in a properly controlled comparative study." "You wish to resume the research that began this entire debacle?" "With mutual participation and strict ethics," Fitzgerald said firmly. "No more abductions." "I'll need clearance from High Command," Vrozak said. "Naturally," Wells replied. "Which is why we've already opened discussions with them directly. They're intrigued, especially in light of recent demonstrations of human capability." The unspoken reminder that Earth had intercepted and pinned down a Zentari vessel with ease wasn't lost on him. "There's one more element," Wells added casually. "We'd like to send a small cohort of human students to study in your most advanced institutions." "Students?" Vrozak asked warily. "Yes. Beginning with 3 particular candidates who have already expressed interest." His eyes glinted. "I believe you've met them." Vrozak's chromatophores flashed a cascade of disbelief. "You're suggesting that we host those 3? The ones who hacked our systems, dismantled our tech, and summoned your military fleet? They did perform exceptionally on your academic evaluations," Wells said, the faintest trace of amusement in his tone. "And who better to launch a cultural exchange than those already familiar with your species?" At last, the full scope of Earth's strategy crystallized in Vrozak's mind. This wasn't just mending relations, it was leverage. They were trading for access to Zentari science while inserting human observers into Zentari institutions, a move nearly impossible to refuse without looking hostile. "You've thought this through," Vrozak said slowly. Wells' thin smile returned. "We've had some practice in interspecies affairs since Kronos." Wells' voice carried a measured calm. "We've found it's best to establish clear limits and mutual gains, right from the start." The subtext was unmistakable. "We stopped the Kronos. We could stop you too. But we'd rather not have to." "I will deliver your proposals to High Command," Vrozak said carefully, "with my recommendation for approval. A scientific alliance could serve us both." "Excellent." Wells rose, extending his hand, the gesture Vrozak now understood. "Here's to a long and productive partnership between our worlds, General. One with fewer surprises." As they shook hands, Vrozak felt the irony keenly. Lieutenant Krill had kidnapped human teenagers in hopes of learning how they'd beaten the Kronos Armada. Instead, he delivered a perfect, living demonstration: adaptability, ingenuity, and the unnerving ability to turn a setback into an advantage. "Ambassador Wells," Vrozak called as the delegation made ready to depart, "one question remains. Your daughter and her companions, do they truly represent your average juveniles, or are they outliers?" Wells considered. "They're from our gifted programs, certainly. Roughly 2 standard deviations above the human mean. But they're not unique. At any given time, Earth has, about 7 million adolescents with similar capabilities." Vrozak's joints stiffened. 7 million? Give or take. "Our education system isn't perfect at finding them all," Wells said with a smile. Vrozak was now learning meant "I enjoy your discomfort. Something we hope to improve, in part, using your own cognitive assessment methods." When the human party departed, Vrozak returned to his command chair, mind racing. 7 million young humans, any of whom might hack alien systems, solve advanced physics in minutes, or dismantle a warship's security without blinking. "Sir." His first officer approached cautiously. "High Command requests a full report on the talks." "Tell them," Vrozak said slowly, "that negotiations went surprisingly well, and that I have an urgent update for our fleet's human space protocols." "What update?" Vrozak's chromatophores settled into a steel-blue hue. "Raise humanity's threat assessment immediately. And append one directive to all captains. Under no circumstances are Zentari crews to interfere with human juveniles. They are considerably more dangerous than they appear." 6 months later, Vrozak stood on the observation deck of the Zentari Science Academy as the first contingent of human exchange students arrived. Among them, as promised or perhaps threatened, were the very 3 from the incident. "General," Finn called out, waving like an old friend, "we used the front door this time." Several nearby Zentari scientists gave the fluted equivalent of awkward laughter. The story of how 3 human teenagers had forced a military vessel's surrender without firing a shot had become legend in Zentari space. "Welcome to the Academy," Vrozak said formally. "Your quarters have been adjusted for human physiology." "Nice," Tyler said, already scanning the nearest console with predatory curiosity. "So, when do we get lab access?" "After your safety orientation," Vrozak replied firmly. "Which includes a very detailed list of what you are not permitted to dismantle." Kate chuckled. "We'll behave. More or less. That qualifier does nothing to inspire confidence." As the students were escorted away by their mentors, Ambassador Wells stepped up beside the general. "They'll keep your scientists sharp." "That," Vrozak admitted, "is what worries me." Wells grinned faintly. "Your own exchange students are causing quite a stir on Earth. Your junior xenobiologist nearly sparked a riot at MIT demonstrating Zentari multivariable calculus. Apparently your notation system is elegant compared to ours. Half the math faculty now wants to rewrite human syntax entirely." Cultural exchange is rarely simple, Vrozak observed. Indeed. Wells' tone shifted to something more serious. The Chronos have been making inquiries. They're uneasy about our growing partnership. As they should be, Vrozak said flatly. The combined research capacity of our two species is nothing to ignore, Wells agreed. Which is why my government is proposing something broader. Not just science, but mutual defense. Vrozak's chromatophores flickered to a warning orange. Against the Chronos specifically? Against any power that thinks either of our worlds is easy prey. The galaxy can be unforgiving. Vrozak considered. 6 months ago, an alliance with humanity would have been unthinkable. Now, with first-hand knowledge of their capability, and after finally reviewing Earth's classified account of the Chronos' defeat, it seemed almost inevitable. High Command will want full details, he said carefully. Already in preparation, Wells assured him. He glanced toward the departing students. It's a complicated galaxy, General. Better to face it alongside allies. When Wells left to rejoin the other diplomats, Vrozak remained by the wide observation windows, gazing out at the scattered points of light. When he had joined the expeditionary force, his orders had been simple: explore, observe, identify both threats and opportunities. Never had he imagined a routine mission could tip the balance of power in an entire sector. His communicator chimed. Sir, priority message from Science Officer Zend at the Academy. Already? Vrozak sighed. What now? She reports that the human called Tyler has improved the quantum entanglement comms array. Efficiency is up by 28%. He's been here less than an hour. Yes, sir. Zen says he looked at it once and said, and I quote, "Oh, you're still using a linear containment field? That's cute." Vrozak made a sound that the translator couldn't quite process. Tell Zend I'll be there shortly. And remind everyone, constant supervision of the human students. Sir. Zend says they've already tried that. Apparently, the female human. Minimum of 12 petawatts, Tyler interrupted, gesturing to a half-dismantled piece of alien hardware on the bench. Kate was pacing, datapad in hand. Petawatts won't matter if the signal degrades before it reaches them. We have to stabilize the fold field or it'll scatter across half the sector. The three of them turned as Wells and Vrozak entered. Ambassadors, Finn greeted, looking far too cheerful for a crisis. Glad you're here. We've got a way to stop those hive mind ships. Vrozak glanced at the chaotic array of parts, holograms, and scrawled formulas in at least 4 different languages. Do I want to know how much of this you borrowed from classified storage? Kate smirked. Define borrowed. Wells folded his arms. Let's hear it before security drags you out. Finn stepped forward, activating a floating model of the enemy formation. Okay, these ships are coordinating through a quantum-entangled network. Not like yours or ours, it's organic. We think their command structure is running on a shared neural pattern, possibly bioengineered. Tyler swiped a hand through the hologram, overlaying a second projection. We build a countersignal, something that scrambles the hive synchronization without destroying the entanglement link entirely. Break their coordination, and they're just 12 ships, not one mind. Kate tapped her datapad, adding another layer to the simulation. The trick is disguising the disruption as part of their own command signal, so they don't realize they're under attack until it's too late. Wells raised an eyebrow. And how exactly do you propose to inject this counter-signal into their network? Through their own targeting scans, Finn said promptly. They're already mapping every ship they pass. All we have to do is make sure what they're scanning bounces back. Different. Vrozak frowned. Different how? Like a rhythm they can't not sync to, Tyler said, grinning. Think of it like an earworm. Only instead of getting stuck in your head, it destabilizes your cognitive link to your fleetmates. Kate added, once their coordination lags even a fraction of a second, we can force them to break formation. Then it's just standard fleet tactics from there. The two ambassadors exchanged a long look. Assuming you're correct, Vrozak said slowly, how long to build it? We've already started, Tyler replied without hesitation. Half the components are ready. We just need access to the Joint Fleet's primary signal array. That array is classified hardware, Vrozak reminded them. So's the thing in Tyler's hands, Finn pointed out. You're still letting him hold it. Vrozak's chromatophores shifted through exasperated shade. Ambassador Wells, your people have a singular talent for making my security officers weep. Only because you keep underestimating them, Wells replied mildly. Can it be done in time? Tyler glanced at Kate. Kate glanced at Finn. If we work non-stop? Finn said. 45 minutes. They'll be in weapons range in 38, Vrozak countered. Tyler's grin widened. Guess we'd better work faster. 35 minutes later, the Joint Fleet hung poised at the edge of the Keplerian sector. 12 hostile ships advanced with surgical precision, their strange hulls glinting in the starlight. On the flagship's command deck, Admiral Reeves stood beside both ambassadors, eyes locked on the tactical display. Signal team status? In position, came the reply. Awaiting transmission sequence. In Research Lab 7, Finn, Tyler, and Kate worked in a blur, fingers flying over consoles, alien and human tech linked together in improbable ways. Power spike in Channel 3, Kate warned. Rerouting through the tertiary regulator, Tyler replied without looking up. Finn adjusted the final code sequence. Counter signal locked. Transmit on my mark. On the flagship, the communications officer looked up. Signal inbound from the lab. Verifying security protocols. It's clean. Ready to transmit. Do it, Reeves ordered. A ripple of energy left the flagship's primary array, invisible but potent. It reached the enemy line just as the ships began their final approach. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then the tactical display flickered, the perfect formation wobbling, ships veering off their coordinated vectors by fractions of a degree. Confirming loss of synchronization, the Zentari tactical officer reported. Their targeting patterns are degrading. Kate's voice came over comms. Give it 10 seconds. The enemy formation shattered. Ships that had been moving like parts of a single organism now drifted into disarray, their maneuvers no longer perfectly timed. Joint Fleet engage. Reeves commanded. In a blaze of coordinated firepower, human and Zentari vessels struck, isolating and disabling the enemy ships one by one. With their hive coordination severed, the mysterious attackers fought like separate units, and they were no match for the combined fleet. Within 20 minutes, the last hostile vessel was drifting, engines dead. In the aftermath, the command deck was a storm of reports, damage assessments, and cheers. Status of the enemy? Vrozak asked. All 12 ships disabled. No signs of self-destruct protocols, the tactical officer said. We may be able to recover intact systems for study. Wells allowed himself a slow smile. Well, General, looks like your special consultants just saved the day. Vrozak's chromatophores flushed a reluctant shade of admiration. Remind me why they are not officially in the Defense Council? Because, Wells replied dryly, if they were, you'd never sleep again. Finn's voice broke in over comms. Hey, can we keep the lab we built this in? I think we just made a universal quantum signal modulator. Kate added, also, we may have accidentally boosted your fleet's encrypted comm range by about 600%. Sorry? Tyler finished, not sorry. Vrozak shut all 4 eyes for a moment. Ambassador Wells, if they survive to age 30, it will be a miracle. General, Wells said, if they survive, it might be the galaxy's miracle. Vrozak wasn't sure if that was reassurance, or a warning. Reconfigure the quantum field generator to, Kate began, only for Tyler to cut in, his hands flying through a translucent holographic interface. The arguing stopped the instant Wells and Vrozak entered the lab. Perfect timing, Finn said, sounding far too pleased for a crisis. We've figured out exactly what those ships are. You have? Wells arched a brow. They're autonomous hunter-killers, Kate explained, summoning schematics into the air between them. And they're ancient, older than both our civilizations combined. Vrozak's chromatophores dimmed in disbelief. How could you possibly know that? The radiation signature, Tyler said, as though it were obvious. They're running a type of fusion reaction that's horribly inefficient by today's standards, but it would have been state-of-the-art about 20,000 years ago. Finn added, we've also found references in both our species' oldest archives. You call them the Silent Ones. We called them the Void Hunters. The Silent Ones are a myth, Vrozak objected. Fables to frighten Zentari hatchlings. Most myths have some truth buried in them, Kate pointed out. And the fact both our cultures have separate legends about machines that stalk life across the stars is telling. Fascinating as this is from an archaeological standpoint, Wells said diplomatically, how does it help us now? Because, Tyler said with a grin, if they're that old, their defenses have a blind spot. Anything based on technology that didn't exist when they were built. We can hit them with a specifically calibrated quantum pulse, and their shields won't know what to do with it. Finn continued, and we've already tweaked the prototype quantum fold drive to create exactly that pulse. Both ambassadors stared at them. You modified the most advanced joint technology our species has ever produced in less than an hour? Wells asked. Kate corrected, 20 minutes actually. The first 40 were figuring out what we were dealing with. Vrozak's mandibles clicked sharply. Have you tested this? The three exchanged glances. Define tested, Tyler said. We've run simulations, Finn offered. 87% chance of success, Kate added. 87%, Vrozak repeated flatly. Pretty good odds, Tyler said, for something invented to counter a 20,000-year-old death fleet. Wells exhaled slowly. The fleet's already deploying. Even if we wanted to try this, we don't have time for untested tech. Finn winced. About that, we kind of already uploaded the specs to the defense network. Any ship with a QF prototype can use it right now. Just needs the activation code. The silence that followed was heavy enough to bend light. You modified the entire fleet without authorization? Wells' voice was ice. In our defense, Kate said quickly, the approval process would have taken days. We have under 3 hours before those things hit the colony world. Also, Tyler added, their hulls are designed to absorb and redirect energy fire. Kinetics bounce right off. Standard weapons aren't going to do much. Vrozak's comm device chimed. Ambassador, report from the front. Our weapons are having minimal effect. The room went still. 87%, you said? Wells asked at last. 87.3, Kate confirmed. Wells and Vrozak exchanged a look that needed no translation. The expression was universal, we have no choice. Send the activation codes, Vrozak ordered. On the bridge of the UZS Harmony, flagship of the Joint Fleet, Admiral Reeves stood over the tactical display as her officers called out status reports. All weapons having minimal effect, the tactical chief reported. Energy fire is absorbed, kinetics ineffective. Casualties? Reeves asked. The Madison and Voidwalker have taken heavy damage. The Kronos observer vessel has been destroyed. Reeves allowed herself a thin smile at that last one. The Kronos had insisted on sending a monitor ship to judge the Alliance's combat capabilities. They'd gotten a much closer look than they'd expected. Admiral, the comms officer interrupted. Priority message from command. Protocol. Troublemaker? Reeves frowned. Not familiar with it. It's authenticated with both ambassadors' personal code. Instructions incoming. Modification to all QF prototype systems. Designated ships are to form a specific pattern and await your order. Reeves scanned the tactical projection. 7 ships had the experimental drives. The indicated formation would encircle the enemy in a 7-point heptagon. "This has our resident genius's fingerprints all over it," she muttered. "Signal the QF ships to take positions." As the formation took shape, Reeves' mind flicked briefly to the story of how the alliance began, with 3 abducted teenagers who turned a near disaster into a diplomatic masterstroke. Now, those same 3 held doctorates and security clearances that outranked most flag officers. "Formation locked," reported Helm Control. Reeves took a breath. "Execute protocol, troublemaker." At first, nothing. Then, 7 bright arcs of energy linked the Allied ships, weaving into a web of quantum entanglement. The ancient vessels hesitated. Then, as if realizing the danger, they began to break formation. Too late. A pulse rippled outward from the web, converging on the hostile ship. Where it touched their hulls, the vessels didn't explode or shatter, they simply came apart, atom by atom, as though a giant invisible hand were carefully dismantling them at the molecular level. Seconds later, nothing remained but drifting clouds of raw element. "All targets neutralized," the tactical officer reported, awed. "No debris. They've dissolved." The bridge erupted. Cheers from the humans, a harmonic vibration from the Zentari that resonated in the deck plating. Reeves allowed herself a smile. "Transmit to command. Protocol troublemaker executed. Hostiles eliminated. Request eventual explanation." As her crew celebrated, she knew the truth. The greatest strength of the human Zentari alliance wasn't raw firepower or even advanced science. It was the wild, unpredictable brilliance born from merging 2 completely different ways of thinking. The Chronos had learned that the hard way. Now, so had the Silent Ones. And whatever else waited in the galaxy's dark corners would learn it too. Never underestimate a human, especially a young one, and never underestimate what they can accomplish when they have friends. In the days after what history would call the Battle of the Keplerian Sector, Vrozak once again found himself performing a now familiar task, explaining the implausible to the Zentari High Command. The ancient autonomous vessels, he concluded in his formal report, known in our own mythology as the Silent Ones, were real. And thanks to our alliance with humanity, they no longer pose a threat. Elder Kozar leaned forward. "This quantum dissolution pulse, its implications are troubling. If it can dismantle ships of such sophistication. The design is classified at the highest level," Vrozak assured them. "It's not a conventional weapon. It requires very specific conditions to function." Elder Miza's mandibles clicked. "Still, the humans created it in less than an hour? From 3 young specialists." Vrozak inclined his head. "Yes. The same 3 involved in the original contact incident. Exceptional, even for humans. And yet you claim there are millions more like them?" Kozar pressed. "Earth produces individuals of comparable intellect," Vrozak confirmed, "but their development cycle is different from ours." "Explain," Miza requested. "They advance in bursts," Vrozak said, chromatophores shifting to a thoughtful blue. "They make leaps that defy logical progression, and sometimes work. What they lack isn't imagination or reasoning, it's longevity and patience." "Because of their short lifespans," Kozar guessed. "Precisely. Each generation must relearn much of what the last knew before building further. And their social structures sometimes delay collaboration. But, when focused, resourced, and united by purpose, they achieve in decades what might take others centuries." The elders exchanged a quiet hum of consideration before Kozar shifted topics. "The Kronos Imperium has lodged a complaint over their observer vessel." "You mean the one that entered the battle zone in direct violation of treaty terms?" Vrozak asked, all innocence. "The same," Kozar confirmed, with what passed for a dry chuckle. "They have also expressed interest in trade talks with the Alliance." Vrozak's chromatophores rippled faint amusement. "I'm sure that has nothing to do with the public demonstration of our joint defensive capabilities." "Almost certainly related," Miza agreed. "Should we entertain them?" Vrozak considered. "Ambassador Wells often says, Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. With proper safeguards, limited engagement might have strategic value. Kozar's gaze lingered. Your time with humans has altered your diplomatic style, Ambassador. Observation or criticism? Vrozak asked. Perhaps both, Kozar said. But your results are difficult to dispute. The Alliance has contained the Chronos, eliminated the Silent Ones, and the mysterious long-range signals from the galactic core have ceased. Vrozak's eyes narrowed. When did they stop? 12 hours after the Keplerian sector battle, Misa replied. We're analyzing possible correlations. A very specific, very troubling suspicion formed in Vrozak's mind. If you'll excuse me, elders, I need to consult our human counterparts. You did what? Vrozak's chromatophores cycled through so many colors so fast that the humans in the room instinctively stepped back. Finn, Tyler, and Kate stood in front of him, wearing expressions that blended mild guilt with unapologetic pride. We may have sent a message, Finn admitted. To the galactic core, Tyler added. Using the quantum dissolution pulse as a carrier wave, Kate finished. Vrozak's translator struggled to capture the blend of horror and disbelief in his voice. You sent a message. To unknown entities. At the galactic core. They've been sending us messages for decades, Kate pointed out. It seemed rude not to answer. Vrozak inhaled slowly. What exactly did your message contain? The three exchanged glances. Tyler spoke first. A primer on the Alliance. Basic math and science for context. And an invitation, Finn added. Vrozak froze. An invitation to what? To join the galactic community, Finn said. We figured if they can send targeted signals across 30,000 light-years, they probably have interesting things to share. Vrozak closed all four eyes in a desperate moment of composure. And the core signals stopped because... They didn't stop, Kate said cheerfully. They changed. Matched our format. We're talking to them now. You are in active communication with an unidentified, likely hyper-advanced civilization from the galactic core, Vrozak clarified, without authorization from either government. Authorization takes forever, Tyler protested. And it's just science talk. No deals, no promises, just conversation. About what? Finn's eyes lit up. They sent theoretical models for energy generation using what appear to be artificial singularities. We're translating their math, but it looks solid. Kate added, they're also fascinated by biological diversity. From what we can tell, they're silicon-based, with a distributed consciousness. Individual, carbon-based life is new to them. Vrozak felt a pressure behind his cranial plates that could only be the Zentari equivalent of a migraine. How long has this been going on? 3 days, Tyler said. We wanted to wait until we had something concrete before telling anyone. Concrete like their arrival date? Kate suggested brightly. Vrozak's chromatophores flared alarm red. Arrival date? They asked to send representatives, Finn said casually. We said yes. When? 6 months, Tyler replied. Give or take a week, based on their propulsion systems. Vrozak stared at them. 3 humans who had, without permission, invited a possibly godlike civilization to drop by for tea. Ambassador Wells, Vrozak muttered, is going to have a stroke. Kate waved a hand. Dad'll be fine. He's used to us by now. The High Command, Vrozak muttered, will probably demote me to sanitation duty on some forgotten outpost. Finn frowned. That's excessive. This is first contact with what might be a post-singularity civilization. It's the greatest scientific moment in recorded history. It's also, Vrozak countered, an unauthorized diplomatic incident with unknown entities who may possess technology far beyond anything we can counter, and who might have been the ones who launched the Silent Ones in the first place. Oh, they definitely built the Silent Ones, Tyler said with complete confidence. They told us. Vrozak's chromatophores flashed sharply. They admitted to creating those death machines? And you still invited them here, In their defense, Kate said smoothly, that was 30,000 years ago. Humanity was still figuring out stone tools then. I'm sure they've matured. Finn added, they were really apologetic about it. Said the Silent Ones were an autonomous defense project from their early expansion era. They've been trying to deactivate the surviving units for millennia, but some went dormant in deep space where they couldn't find them. So, technically, Tyler concluded, we helped them clean up an ancient mess. Great first step for diplomacy. The sound that escaped Vrozak's vocal cavity didn't translate in any known language. 3 years ago, Lieutenant Krill had kidnapped 3 human teenagers, accidentally triggering an alliance that shifted the balance of power in the entire sector. Now those same humans, as young adults, had somehow initiated first contact with a civilization from the Galactic core, and Vrozak was, yet again, the one who would have to explain it to everyone in authority. 6 months, he confirmed wearily. Give or take, Kate replied. Then I suggest, Vrozak said with all the dignity he could muster, we begin preparing a proper welcome, since the invitation has already been issued. As he walked off to deliver the news to Ambassador Wells and the Joint Command, Vrozak reflected, humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology, adaptability, or even their intelligence. It was their audacity. They didn't view the unknown with fear, but with relentless curiosity, and the unshakable belief that everything unknown was just a friend they hadn't met yet. It was terrifying. It was chaotic. And, he had to admit, it was exactly why the Alliance worked. Sometimes the galaxy didn't need endless protocols. Sometimes it needed 3 humans who looked at an ancient, terrifying mystery and thought, I wonder if they want to chat. 6 months later, representatives from 27 worlds gathered in Earth orbit for the arrival of the core civilization's envoys. On the observation deck of the newly built Joint Headquarters Station, Vrozak, now Ambassador Vrozak, stood looking out at the stars. Nervous? Ambassador Wells asked, stepping up beside him. Merely reflective, Vrozak said. It occurs to me that none of this would have happened if Lieutenant Krill had simply followed orders and kept his distance. Wells chuckled. The greatest discoveries often come from mistakes, not plans. So humans keep reminding me. Vrozak's chromatophores shifted in amusement. Your children have proven that point repeatedly. Wells nodded toward the far end of the deck. Finn, Tyler, and Kate were deep in animated conversation with scientists from half a dozen worlds, including several Kronos delegates. They seemed to have adapted well to their celebrity, Vrozak observed. Too well, Wells sighed. They've had offers from 12 different worlds. The Kronos even tried to bribe them with their own research station. Your offspring are loyal, Vrozak said dryly. Though their methods remain unconventional. That's a diplomatic way of putting it, Wells smirked. Before Vrozak could reply, ceremonial chimes rang through the station, not the sharp alarms of danger, but the deep, resonant tones announcing an honored arrival. Showtime, Wells murmured. The vast viewport shifted to real-time imagery from the designated arrival point 1,000,000 kilometers from Earth. Hundreds of dignitaries fell silent. For a moment there was nothing. Then space itself rippled like the surface of disturbed water. A point of light appeared, expanded, and the Corps' envoys arrived. There was no singular massive vessel. Instead, crystalline structures unfolded into existence, shifting geometric forms that seemed to rewrite themselves as they moved, some the size of a shuttle, others larger than a Zentari cruiser. Corps envoys have arrived, the station AI announced. Communication link established. The largest crystalline form pulsed with light, a sequence of patterns at once random and precise. The translation systems processed and projected the message across every screen. Greetings, Alliance of Carbon and Zentari. We are the collective consciousness of the Corps. We accept your invitation to discourse and exchange. Our gratitude to the 3 initiators for opening this dialogue. Dozens of heads, and more than a few alien sensory stalks, turned toward Finn, Tyler, and Kate, who looked equal parts proud and slightly sheepish at being recognized by an ancient civilization in front of the galaxy's most powerful leaders. The formal greetings began, every movement choreographed by months of planning. Vrozak found himself beside the trio. "I suppose congratulations are in order," he said dryly. "You've managed to contact an advanced civilization without sparking an interstellar crisis, this time." "See." Finn grinned. "We're growing. Learning from our past mistakes," Tyler agreed. "Showing mature judgment," Kate said with mock solemnity, before breaking into a grin. Vrozak's chromatophores shimmered with what they now recognized as Zentari laughter. "I've abandoned all hope of conventional behavior from you three. The galaxy would be a duller place without your chaos." As the formalities concluded and the diplomatic teams began preparing for substantive talks, Wells joined them. "The core representatives have specifically requested that you three participate in the scientific exchange sessions," he said. "Apparently, your unauthorized communications made quite an impression." "We tried to be good ambassadors," Finn said earnestly. "Despite the unconventional beginning," Wells admitted, "you succeeded. The Corps seems genuinely eager for peaceful relations. They're fascinated by the idea of our alliance," Kate added. "Apparently, voluntary collaboration between different species as equals is new to them. They've spent most of their existence in isolation," Tyler explained. "Until recently, they weren't even sure other intelligent life existed. That's why they built the Silent Ones, autonomous probes designed to scout and protect their territory while they focused inward." "Yes, about that," Vrozak interjected. "Have they mentioned any other early-period technologies we should be concerned about?" The three humans exchanged looks, the kind that meant Vrozak probably wasn't going to like the answer. "Well," Finn began cautiously, "they did bring up some experiments with artificial wormhole systems. And," Tyler added helpfully, "possibly a few self-replicating resource harvesters." Vrozak's chromatophores froze in midshift. "Self-replicating? They're pretty sure most of those shut down," Kate said quickly, "or evolved into independent civilizations of their own by now." Beside them, Ambassador Wells gave Vrozak a look that blended resignation with the faintest hint of amusement. This, improbable, precarious, and occasionally terrifying, was apparently their new normal. A galaxy stranger and far more complicated than either of their species had imagined, navigated with the assistance of three humans who had never met a boundary they didn't vault over with enthusiasm. "The Corps representatives will be transferred to the station within the hour," Wells informed them. "Try not to rewrite galactic politics again before dinner, if you please." As Wells strode away to rejoin the diplomatic contingent, Vrozak lingered, studying the three humans. "When Lieutenant Krill abducted you that day," he asked, "did you have any inkling where it would lead?" "You mean," Finn said, "did we plan to form an interstellar alliance, defeat ancient autonomous death machines, and make first contact with a post-singularity civilization?" "Not exactly," Kate admitted with a grin. "But it's turned out pretty well, don't you think?" Tyler's smile was pure mischief. "Yeah. Could have gone worse." Vrozak's chromatophores settled into a deep, steady blue, the color the humans had learned meant fond exasperation. "That," he said, "might be the understatement of the galactic cycle." Around them, the observation deck thrummed with motion, technicians adjusting equipment, dignitaries preparing formal greetings, security officers checking last-minute protocols. Vrozak found himself thinking back to where it all began. It had started with a mistake, an unauthorized abduction, a mission meant to quietly observe a primitive species. It should have been routine. Instead, it became the first thread in a tapestry of improbable events. Diplomatic crises narrowly avoided, revolutionary technologies exchanged, joint fleets formed, ancient threats destroyed, and now the arrival of a civilization older than any in their records. Through every twist and escalation, one constant remained: humanity's maddening, exhilarating gift for turning chaos into opportunity. They didn't just adapt, they leaned in. They faced the unknown not with dread, but with curiosity. And somehow, impossibly, they kept finding friends where others would have made enemies. It was, Vrozak decided, a distinctly human kind of magic. Dangerous, unpredictable, and endlessly compelling. And the galaxy was undeniably more interesting for it. His chromatophores pulsed once, slowly. Humanity, he murmured under his breath, fuck yeah. An hour later, the ceremonial docking bay doors opened to admit the core envoys. The crystalline forms floated through the pressurized chamber in complete silence, light rippling across their facets in patterns that the station's translators rendered as formal greetings. The dignitaries from 27 worlds watched in rapt attention as the delegation drifted forward, their shifting geometries casting refracted light like living prisms. At the center of the chamber, the largest crystalline envoy pulsed in a rhythm that signaled its intent to speak. The translation appeared simultaneously across every display. We thank the Alliance for its welcome. We acknowledge the three initiators whose inquiry began this dialogue. We come to share, to learn, and to build. Every eye in the room slid toward Finn, Kate, and Tyler. The three looked both proud and mildly awkward at the sudden spotlight, though Finn managed a small, self-deprecating bow. The formalities began: introductions, ceremonial exchanges of symbolic gifts, the precise diplomatic choreography agreed upon in months of negotiation. Yet as Vrozak observed the scene, he knew the most significant exchanges would not take place here in the Grand Hall. They would happen in labs, over shared datasets and midnight debates, in quiet conversations between minds that had waited millennia to meet their equals. He found himself standing beside the three humans again. "You do realize," he said quietly, "that this will change everything." Finn's grin was quick. "That's the idea." Kate tilted her head. "You're not worried?" Vrozak's chromatophores shifted in the slow, layered pattern that meant many things at once. "I am cautious, but I have also learned something, thanks to you three. The universe rewards boldness more often than it should." Tyler chuckled. "We'll take that as a compliment." "It was not entirely meant as one," Vrozak replied dryly, though the flicker of blue through his chromatophores gave him away. From across the chamber, Wells approached. "The core representatives have requested you three join them for the initial scientific exchange session." "We'll be on our best behavior," Kate promised. "Relatively speaking," Tyler amended. Vrozak muttered something in Zentari that the translator rendered as, "We are doomed." But as the three moved off to meet with the core delegation, Vrozak felt the same reluctant warmth he'd carried since the day they first disrupted his life. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone had predicted. And somehow these three humans were always at the heart of it. Perhaps that was exactly where they were meant to be.